Welcome, everybody, to Ranked, a show analyzing and discussing the evolving meta of the professional Starcraft 2 pro scene. And we focus here on the tactics, builds, and metas that are happening around Starcraft 2, but I'm not an expert. That's why I brought these guys in here. I'm joined here by the Doc. Doc, how are you?
I'm doing great.
And PiLiPiLi.
Hey, what's up, man? Doing good. How are you?
Good. And I'm your host, Drekken. Guys, are you ready to talk some PvZ?
Always. My favorite matchup. My favorite matchup.
Hey, favorite matchup. I'm as ready as I'm going to be. I'm not the most expert in the ways of the Protoss, but I'll do my best to ask all the good questions so we can get all the insight we can from you. Feel it.
The thing is, like, Doc, you're playing other races now, right? You were trying. I saw you were doing 12 pool until you fail on stream. I don't know how that went.
Dude, it didn't fail.
All right, so we're here. Pili, tell me, what have you been up to before we get into all this lately?
Oh, damn. A lot of things, mostly streaming. Actually started a YouTube channel, was starting to grow that, trying to do some guides, some series. But yeah, mostly streaming. Just finished a 25-hour stream 2 days ago. I'm recovering a little bit from that. As you can see, my face skin is a little dry after 25 hours of staying up and staring at the screen. So trying to recover from that. But overall, the good old.
Doc, I remember you had a question, didn't you, originally?
Oh, yeah. What's the practice schedule like for, I guess, did you still consider a pro or mostly streamer now?
Technically a pro, I did make top 8 Dreamhack, but that was just kind of like a nice bonus. Overall, I do focus mostly on streaming. I haven't really been practicing off stream as much, unless it's like for a very specific opponent. Like when I do have a match like for JonSnow or Namshar, then I'll do some customs, but I'll never just do customs just for overall practice anymore. But back in the day, obviously, when I was like 2016, 17, when I was more competitive, that's when I had like a real schedule.
Did you retired temporarily and then you came back? Like, I remember you saying you were going to Dota, and then I don't know how.
Dota I just did it like for fun. Obviously, like if you're starting something, there's no reason to do it unless you think you're gonna get like actually something out of it or you're good. So obviously, when I was playing Dota, I was trying hard. But yeah, like basically like 2018, I kind of got like I guess burned out from the games, and I was also moving to dorms to finish my 2 years in university. So it was like impossible to practice and wasn't even possible to play Dota at the time. So I basically was disappeared from the scene for a year and a half or two almost. And I played a little bit in 2019, but that's because like NA scene was just so weak in 2019. So I could just show up and qualify for tournaments, or at least for Challenger. So I just did that for that. Yeah, in 2020, I guess among most players, I came back. And actually, like the NA scene actually improved a lot. 2020 is definitely like NA scene is like much stronger than almost it's ever been, excluding Koreans. I guess the fact that we don't have Koreans makes it a little weaker, but yeah, we're back this year with the Corona and everything. So I've been streaming, competing, all of that. But yeah, it's been a good year and a half break for me before that.
What brought you back to come back to StarCraft 2 instead of maybe going to another game?
Well, it's the only game I'm good at, so it was like the only choice. It's the only game I can, make money off. So it's a
good reason.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's talk PvZ before we get into the actual games. What is your overall feeling on PvZ in general, and then like this patch?
All right, well, so my PvZ is very different from what PvZ as like a meta you would see, like my games, which look nothing like, Showtime versus Serral or anything like that. But I've always been, more of a cheesy player, not even cheesy, I guess, more of a like aggressive mid-game oriented player, and, still am. Overall, I'm not too happy with the state of PvZ. Not for me, but like for like when I watch Serral versus Showtime for a millionth time. I just can't take it, or Knee versus Serral, or Knee versus Reina. It just late game does seem to be just straight up boring to watch because it just turns into this turtle with million cannons and million sports. Like it's cool to watch once or twice, but then it's gonna get old super fast, and I think it already is getting old. I don't think anyone is excited to watch a late game PvZ for a millionth time and watching an hour-long game of Vipers trying to yank a unit every 10 minutes or so. So I think that's kind of problematic, where Blizzard does have to step in and do something. Not sure what, but it does look like late game is, at least for me, it's not enjoyable to watch. Maybe it's a personality-wise, playstyle-wise, but
Yeah, sure.
I can't take another PvZ late game. But for early game, it's basically the same. If you deny information well, if you trick Zerg, if you metagame them, if you know their overlord patterns, you know their scouting patterns, you can always like figure out some cheesy builds. There's like Voiders that work well now. Adepts always work and always will work. DTs are always there. Oracles, you know, random carriers. You know, it all still works. It's always a playstyle that's much harder to make work. That's why you don't see it on like a Korean meta. Like people do crazy stuff, but not as often. Most of it is like, hey, we're gonna make
very standard
Oracle. Yeah, mostly standard. Good Zergs will mostly hold, and sometimes I get to beat good Zergs, but most of the time, if they're like on point, it's very hard to catch Zerg off guard. But it's definitely possible.
So a lot of the recent balance patches were centered around the PvZ matchup and trying to make the games more appealing to the late game, to like more appealing for the Protoss to want to go into the late game. Do you think those patches have been successful in getting people to want to go to the late game, or now just not fun to be there?
So the bailing patch was good. It actually made it so PvZ is not just dying to bailings every game, and that switched the meta from bailing Ravager to like Hydra Lurker, from what I understand, for the most part. And because if you make Lurkers as Zerg, then the late game is guaranteed. Protoss can't kill you, but you can't kill Protoss. You guys are just sitting there both. It's going to be ultra late game. So that's kind of a problem. Also, the thing they did with the feedback, I was actually talking to Wisdom Sauce the other night. He used to be one of the observers for StarCraft. And he talked about one of the balance patches or balance suggestions that he proposed to Cats, and then Cats proposed it to the balance team, but it got rejected. But it was, so they made the feedback damage. They increased the feedback range. So now it outranges Vipers. So Protoss always gets free feedback now. And that's why, but it doesn't kill the Viper. So it's just feedback, feedback, and nothing happens. But he proposed that like to increase the damage from 50% to 75 or something. I'm not really sure about the numbers, but increasing the damage on the feedback. That way Zerg actually has to pay attention how much mana, like energy they have on their Vipers. That way they don't actually get one-shotted by the feedback. So that would be kind of cool, I think, something, but decreasing back the range. That way, you know, there's a little bit of interaction where there's micro involved between Protoss. Like Protoss doesn't just get feedbacks for free, but if they do manage to get them, they actually kill the Viper.
Good reward. It's like a reward. Good high reward,
so
high risk.
At least there's some, because now it's just like feedbacks happen. All right, Zerg just backs off.
But you're not rewarded. Right.
And then they just re-get the energy, and then we're back at square zero. And like we get those hour-long games for, I don't think anyone wants to watch that. But yeah, it's a little weird. I'm not really sure how you would change that, because then, before that, we just had Zergs to win in mid-game every time with Bailings. And now that they can't win with Bailings anymore, now they have to go Lurkers because that's the only unit they have left. But Lurkers just kind of forces a late game. So I'm not too sure, because once again, I don't play that style. I never enjoyed it. It's just not my thing. But from what I see, it does seem like it's going to get really old really fast.
So speaking of your style, I actually had a lot of time going through a lot of your replays. So I'm really excited to go and talk to you, because I have some questions about your game. So let's get into the first one.
Sounds good.
Let's do this one. All right. All right. So we are. This is you versus JonSnow on. I never say this. I don't know if I say this map name correctly. Is it Jagannatha? How do you? How's
I'm not the person to ask.
I think it's Jagannatha. Well, I'll understand.
Yeah, that's what I always said, but I don't feel like I ever know what the right way to say it.
Right. So. When we do vetoes, we always just say Jag. Like no one tries to spell it because everyone knows that it's impossible. We just say the first three letters.
All right. So there, that's fine. So yeah, you against JonSnow, you actually took the whole series for this. Pretty convincing. But I noticed. First of all, what's your take on Jag in general for Protoss?
It's a good map. I don't think. I think it's actually like, it's very good for gimmicks because of the way the Overlord spawn works. Because that pillar that's like on top of my gateway right now, it's not like you don't. Overlord is not safe there, because if you put Adept on the high ground or Stalker on the high ground, then that Overlord is seen. So you can
I saw you do that against Namshar. You did that on Namshar. You put an Overlord there, thinking it was safe, and you killed it.
Right. So they can't do that. So it's a little easier to like sneak things out. But overall, it's a good macro map. It's a fairly long. I don't know. I like the map. Most maps in the season are very enjoyable, at least for me. And I think it's a fairly standard map. The third is very accessible, so is fourth and fifth. There's a lot of room for macro games, and there's definitely some ways to trick Zerg as well because of the Overlord spot. Because they have to keep the Overlord like on the right side, kind of where the JonSnow is gonna put it. But that also makes it harder for them to see the first 2 Adepts. Because if I make 2 Adepts and move out with them, it's a little hard for Zerg to know if I did or not. Because they have to keep Overlord like really far away. Because if it's Stalker, then it dies. But if it's Adept, then they don't see if Adept moves out or not. So it's a little gambly for Zerg, I think, on this map. I'm not really sure what they're meant to do. But this game, I just went for Stalker, so I just was looking to hunt out the Overlord, but he put it safe, at least for the first couple minutes.
I noticed sometimes you switch between going Stalkers versus Adepts. Sometimes you go a hard Adept with Resonating Glaives and just rush down the Zerg, and you do that a couple of times where you just rush down the Zerg with Resonating Glaives and go into Immortals. When do you decide to make this choice between just going Stalkers and maybe pushing?
Well, so technically, okay, this game was a little metagamey because this game I was trying to sell the fact that I was going for the Glaives. I was going Stalker. Usually when I go Stalker first into Adept or Adept Stalker, it's almost always Adept Glaive for me. And when I go 2 Adepts or 3 Adepts, then it's almost always Stargate. But this game I was like, because we just, like, me and Justin play a lot, ladder, tournaments, whatever. So he knows my builds, he knows I do that stuff. I was thinking of doing like Fey Glaive push with DTs behind, but instead I did Fey Glaive push with 2 Oracles behind. So I went for a really fast Stargate, but I like hit it in my main base kind of far, and I just waited for 2 Oracles to pop. And my Stalker was just literally just like making sure the Overlord can never get in. So that was kind of like the idea for this game at least. And at the same time, I was trying to make the same timings for the 4 Adepts. Because when you do the 4-gate Glaive, you move out with 4 Adepts at around, 4-minute mark.
Okay.
So I was trying to do the same thing, where I move out with 4 Adepts, like making it look like it's a Glaive build. So they react to it, they make roaches, and then 2 Oracles fly in and kill drones, because they're not going to make Spore. Because if I do actually go Glaives and they make 3 Spores, they can just die to Glaives, because 3 Spores, like, it's just such a waste. So that was like the whole metagame this game, and I killed the Overlord on the bottom side, and the one on the left side right now, it didn't get to see the Oracles. So now my Oracle is just going to get across the map without being seen, while my 4 Adepts are moving out. So he now, like, he knows that he needs, like, Lings and Roaches. I don't know if you look at the unit production right now, or unit overall. Yeah, he's making, like, Spine and 7 Roaches. Like, he thinks this is Glaive. So that was perfect for me. Like, I sold
you did it. You sold it. You sold it.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely sold it. And see, like, now he's like, oh, it's Adepts, I'm going to go. And Queens are baited, too, by the Adepts, because they have to be. And then and then he pulls the drones, not that much damage, but it's already some indirect damage. And then Adepts also get to do some stuff. And, I'm on 44 drones. He had to cut drones really early this game, because that's how you meant to hold the 4-gate Glaive. You kind of cut drones early. And then he just loses a bunch, and the game is just like, realistically, it was over here. Like, everything after, the game dragged out for a while, but he's on 32 drones to 46 probes. I have a 3rd base, I have 4 gases, and, he can't really do any counter damage. I think he cancels my 3rd, perhaps. Yeah, I kind of messed up here with, like, not having the best, like, I should have warped in some units before trying to go for the 3rd, and I should have waited for my Oracles to be back. But it doesn't really matter, I'm 11, still like 10 workers ahead, and I believe I'm just gonna go triple Stargate, which I already have in my natural or something. So
I really love that. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I love that. It was all about selling it. It was like I watched this replay a couple of times, and I did not like catch the idea that you were trying to sell it. So I was like, man, because I saw that you would do your Adept push, which was really strong. You actually got Scarlett with it in our first game.
Right.
So, I was like, oh, okay, why didn't you do it this game? But you were trying to sell something else, and it worked.
Right.
So
yeah, it's kind of like I was just trying to make it like as hard as possible for him. So, because like if you always go Glaive, or like if you always go like Stalker, and then that means you go Glaive, or if you go like 2 Adepts, that almost means you go Stargate. Like Zergs, like they catch up to those things, and then they become too lazy with scouting, and so then you have to catch them off guard with stuff like that. But yeah, after that, I think he knew that I was gonna go. Like this was like once again, it kind of shows how like well we know each other. But I went for triple Stargate Phoenix, and he didn't scout. He might have seen me research the +1 on the cybernetics core, but he just sat there and like made spores. Like he was just like straight up metagaming in a way. And we're gonna come back to that in the series with Namshar, with his +1 in the front with the cybernetics core. But yeah, like as you can see, he's just like massing spores, and like just all overlords are he's pulling back all overlords that he's ready for triple Phoenix, but he hasn't seen them. He's just assuming.
So how when you're doing this, because I know how you close it out, but when you decide to close it out, like is this part of your plan, like to go Phoenix and then you switch into carriers? Is that just how it goes to close it out?
There's like 2 ways to go about it. Sometimes I go mass Phoenix, where like if they respond with corruptors, but I feel like I'm ahead enough, I can just make even more Phoenix and go for Phoenix range. If they stay ground, you can either do like switch to the ground yourself and just go like, you know, regular Storm, Arc, and Zealot, or you can just go carriers, which when I chose this game, I felt like I was just like, I felt I had this game because I knew I was. So I was like, carriers are a good choice because I know I can't die to like a Hydra push, and I know like it's also like an easier thing to play in tournaments, not gonna lie. Like if you just go carriers from ahead, like you just have 5 carriers, you just A-move them. But if you go like Storm, Archon, then they get lurkers, and sometimes the game drags into like this late stage that I don't want to play. Because first of all, I'm not good at it. Second of all, I just hate it. And that's one way to throw. You know, all the early game advantage will be irrelevant if you actually go into the super late game. So I was trying to like keep the tempo up, because even when I ended up going carriers, I still like wanted to be super aggressive with him because I knew I was ahead. Because, you know, even though he like played so defensive against Phoenix, they still found some damage just because I was ahead from before.
Yeah, but he goes Hydras, doesn't he switch to? Yeah, he does switch to Hydras. So I was kind of like worried for the Phoenixes against that, but he seemed.
Well, when you have 15 Phoenixes, when they only starting Hydras, like you can always find something, and like even in direct damage is good too. Like he's just now to go into 65 drones, which is super late considering. You know, like I'm taking my 4th, I believe, soon, and you know I already have like 3 carriers on the way or something like that. Or at least, okay, yeah, I'm about to. So yeah, he's drone, like, ideally Zerg wants to be like on 85 drones by now, but he can't really afford it. And that, plus he still doesn't know I'm going carriers. Like, he has yet to have any scouting in the past, like, 5 minutes. He assumed the Phoenixes, and that was a good assumption, but I could be going ground here, and that's where lurkers would be good, but I could be going carriers, and that's still okay, but like he ended up overmaking lurkers from what I remember.
Yeah. What scouting options would JonSnow have to actually spot the carriers?
Links are the only thing, yeah. Links. I mean, you could try to sneak in the Overseer through the corner of the map. That sometimes works, but links are usually the best because you just scout like the third base and you see like, hey, does he have? Well, first of all, a lot of times you just need to make sure they even have gases on the third. But this game he was too far behind to even bother because I could just like adept all in even after this. And if you go you got to be like checking the gases, you got to be checking the fourth base, but usually just checking the unit comp because you can just, if you see Archons, that's like, okay, he has Archons. This game was a little weird for him because I ended up making so many Zealots because I was so afraid of like a Hydronitis or something because I knew he was ahead, I knew I was ahead, so I knew he was going to do something weird. So I was kind of expecting some sort of Hydra push. That's why I kind of overmade like a bunch of ground units that I never really had any upgrades for. But yeah, I feel like for him to like scout the ground transition is you have to be super active with links.
For sure. It doesn't have that many resources. Like you said, once he took all that early game damage, it's so rough for him to try and come back.
Right.
Is that the main thing? Then you're gonna try to like get in before he can get any nidus and like just finish it off before he gets to that late game point. That's your main goal at the point now.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I got ahead of early game, so I got to keep the tempo up, and I'm just like keep trying to like, because I know like I'm not great at late game. I'm not gonna lie to myself. And it's also a tournament setting, which like playing late game in the tournament setting is always like nerve wracking because you're gonna mess up your hotkeys, your hands are cold, this and that. So you just want to like finish with like. There's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but there are a lot of builds that are good, but there are builds that are good not because they're good, but because they're just so easy to execute. Like there's some builds that are very good, but you might not exactly want to do them in tournaments because it's just like it's so like high skill execution builds, for example, where it's like.
What's a good example of that? What's an example that comes to your mind?
I think that this is like perfect. Like if you watch Knee play, where he just turtles with like Mass Tempest and then he just micros all game, trying to snipe one spore, pull back, feedback. He has like 7 hotkeys for every little thing. And it's like you watch me and I just put everything in. Like I put 20 zealots with no charge here on one hotkey with a fucking void carriers, and then I just go, like everything. Like I have 2 hotkeys right now, But if I went late game, then you have to like pay attention to so many other things. Whereas like it's just a unit composition, I guess that's easier.
Right.
Well, even like back in the day when I used to play Skytos a lot, like a lot of people went like Storm Skytos, where like they actually would like play a legit macro, but I would just like try to max out on carriers as fast as possible and attack before there's too many spores. And for me, it's really easy because I just A-move, but Zerg has to play like Viper, Infestor, Spore,
right.
Queen. It's like so much harder for them to execute in tournaments than it is for me. So stuff
they
like
gotta
that.
They got to do yanking. They got to focus on yanking. They got to go try to focus down, especially if you're doing something like heavy, like carriers like this.
Right. And yeah, here, like I kind of got lucky because he overmates lurkers. So I mean, carriers just had like no counter at this point, and I have so many phoenixes. So every time Hydra pop, I just ended up lifting them. It was kind of sloppy by me. You could tell I'm messing it up, but it just didn't matter because I was just that far ahead. Like I'm losing carrier interceptors all the time. I'm losing a carrier to spores, but yeah, that far ahead. I felt like this game was like fairly sloppy done by me. Like build order wise speaking, I did well because I was so far ahead after the initial Oracle meta, and then I was ahead because he also overmade lurkers. He made like way too many lurkers, and it's mostly carriers, and I still like barely broke. So I wasn't too happy about that. I remember after the game being like, "Wow, if I can barely win this game, how would I ever win a fair game?" But I knew he was tilted, and that was a good mental edge.
You mentioned that because you actually do this again. There's something very similar against like Scarlett in your game 2. Your game 2 against.
Yeah, that's right.
And she ends up breaking through with Banelings and getting to the back of your base.
Oh, and, that was rough.
Like, what is it? You didn't get the same. And we're not. That one.
I don't think I did any damage, but yeah, it was kind of the same thing where like. I also went for a different build. I don't think I was hiding oracles or anything. I think it was like a very straight up. I did pushing stuff into like 2 oracles. The oracles didn't do much. I think my third got a little delayed, little supply blocks here and there. And then, triple star, you got scouted. Or I think +1 upgrade being researched got scouted.
Yeah.
And then she just did the thing where she just sits there, gets spores, gets the Hydras. Phoenixes show up, do absolutely nothing. And then I just get Hydra pushed and I cannot get enough carries on time.
Yeah, your Phoenixes didn't get nowhere near as the same amount of work as you got here. And even though our composition looked somewhat similar, I don't have that game right in my head, but I remember seeing, I was like, oh, this looks like a similar composition, but you had way less carriers than you have now.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. I also played against Scarlett in EPT Cup finals like a week before that match, and I tried to do the same thing, and I died exactly the same way. So it was just like, I was kind of upset with myself for trying the same thing twice, knowing it doesn't work, and knowing that she knows that I do that stuff. It was not very smart by me, but I was kind of hoping that like because I was up 1-0, she might just be like too paranoid about adepts again, that this might just work. But yeah, it did not happen.
Oh, there we go. So thinking about that then, with that in mind, like when you know your opponent knows that you know, you could do the same thing like you did. Like you played a game prior, and then you're gonna play the match. Then how do you switch out the meta game for them? How do you kind of throw them off? Like we saw how you did it kind of with JonSnow here, but like say someone like Scarlett, how would you have done that differently?
Well, I think I kind of tried against Namshar because I don't recall 100%, but against Scarlett, it was this map too, and it was kind of similar situation But the way she scouted is that the Lynx saw that the cybernetics core was upgrading +1. So she knew it was going to be a Phoenix transition, right? So what I was thinking, what I could have done is I could have made a second cybernetics core as I'm taking the third, like somewhere behind my middle line or something. And then I would just not research it in the front and research it in the back. Just not use the cybernetic core in the front. That way, you can't get scouted that way. So I could have done that. And then I guess, speaking of this kind of metagame, in the game against Namshar, where on this map too, I was doing the Stargate build. And then I went for a Robo, but I was trying to hide it. But I also started +1 attack on air, hoping that he would scout that and think that this is triple Stargate again. But I think he just like was too lazy to scout, so he never ended up scouting it. So then and then he scouted like later than he normally, I think, Zerg should have, and then he scouted me as I'm moving out. So it was like super unfortunate for me. But yeah, this is kind of the meta games that I would try, where like, because Zergs never really gets to have like a lair and get an overseer, because obviously when you go Stargate, you make a Phoenix or Voyagery, so all the overlords die. So the only way for them is to make overseer at home and sneak it out, but that takes a while, and a lot of times they do delay a lair to like properly drone up and like defend your first 2 adepts and oracles and stuff like that. So a lot of times they rely on very subtle tells, such as, cyber researching and how fast their third base is and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely the metagames you would try to do. But sometimes, you can just do exactly the same thing, hoping that they don't expect it, because, yeah.
You could play it that they know that I know, then they might think that I don't know, and then I'll do something different. But exactly. I'll actually do the same thing.
That's kind of how it goes.
Doc, what's your thoughts on this so far?
The cybernetics core, the hidden cybernetics core, seems interesting to me. Do you think there's any chance that like later third or something from the minerals you spent on the cybernetics core would still potentially give something away?
I would think. Well, I haven't done that build. That was just a thought that I had.
For sure.
But I think you take a third and then you do second cyber.
Gotcha.
But it kind of depends. I would have to look at the timings, because your +1 on Phoenixes is not that important, because like if Phoenixes go unscouted, it doesn't matter if they have +1 or not. They're still gonna do damage. And if they're scouted, once again, it doesn't matter if they have +1. So I feel like maybe just not even getting +1 for Phoenixes that fast makes sense too, because I'm not even sure if it kills Overlord faster and stuff, like it helps.
Yeah, but like
Raptors. But do you really need it? If that gives away your whole build, maybe it's better to just skip it altogether, or just get second cyber and then get it there, because you're gonna need it for later if you go carriers for double upgrades anyway.
Do you find you do that a lot, getting second cyber to just throw off, or is that more like a gimmick?
Yeah, definitely more like a gimmick. But in tournaments, when your tournament line is on the line, it doesn't matter how you.
You can throw all the gimmicks.
Yeah, let's
all
go.
the gimmicks.
It only needs to work once.
Exactly.
You know what? That's a good point. You just needs to work once. It's best.
And then it scares people for the rest of the tournament. They're like, "Oh, this guy's gonna make a freaking second cyber and hide his +1. Like, I gotta be careful." And then they're paranoid, and then 20 adepts show up in their base.
Do you find that you use a lot more of those kind of, especially in tournaments, a lot like mental mind games, a lot of like, throw you off your throw someone off your game?
I definitely think like I'm not exactly like a great player. My mechanics are not that great. My builds are like all gimmicky. So like if people know how I play, if I'm playing very one-dimensional with the style I play, there's no chance. Like I always have to create new stupid stuff to like get an edge with, because mechanically speaking, I'm a lot weaker than most, and like macro, I'm completely garbage. So like I have to constantly find little things to get my, like, either being super greedy with scouting or finding new builds. Like there's always stuff like that I have to find, especially nowadays that like I'm mostly like stream. I don't really have time to like create new builds that no one's seen, or practice things that my opponent hasn't seen. Like everything is out there, and I also like play a fair amount of tournaments. So if anyone wants to do research, it takes them like 2 seconds to find everything they ever need to know about me. So then, like, I need to kind of like, first of all, I have to think about like how much research did they do on me, and if I think that they did a lot, then I have to like try to metagame their metagame. But if I think they didn't do much research, then I might, be a little lazier on that because I don't even think they know my main meta games. But
How would you know
stuff
that,
like that it's hard. Like sometimes you just have to guess because especially in this DreamHack format, it's like, oh yeah, playing Scarlett. Is she really gonna bother watching anything on me, or is she gonna rely on the fact that she just smashed me 3-0 last week in the PT Cup finals, and she's gonna just go with that? So yeah, probably not. But JonSnow maybe, because we're like, especially if you look at that group, like there was 3 people who went 3-4 in that group, and I only won by map score. So those matches were super important for both of us. So then maybe there's going to be a little more research. But then again, we play so much, it's probably not going to be that heavy research. But who knows? I kind of just have to think of what the stuff he will do most likely, and then try to go off. But yeah, the mental warfare is always there, and it's kind of hard. Sometimes you guess it right, sometimes you guess it's completely wrong and look like an idiot. You never know.
Okay, so this is the perfect time. Speaking of Scarlett, I'm going to jump right into you versus Scarlett. This one is also Group A, but game 1. This is game
one.
Yeah,
that was an interesting game for sure.
Yeah.
So it's actually, this is a shout out to Australia, because what happened was, I did the very first YouTube video that I did was a 420 challenge, which was around the fact that I was basically trying to get people to do this 4-gate glaive build, where and they just had to hit the 420 timing with 4 gates, glaives, and 8 adepts, right? So Australia shows up and he's like, "Hey, Pili, I got a much better version for you." So he does this thing, what I do. And if you look, I'm going gas first this game, and I don't scout. So this is kind of it's a huge risk that I was taking, because I was just if Scarlett 12 pulls, game's over. I just tap out looking like an idiot, But she didn't 12 pull, so I was in a perfectly fine spot. I went gas first, gateway, and then no scout. So this is this is a regular Glaive Adept build, but it's much greedier, and you have 5 gateways instead of 4. So, and it hits basically at the same timing, but you have 1 extra adept and 1 extra gateway. So it's just so much sharper on so many ways that if Zerg plays a little too safe, if they make a spore to prevent a potential oracle, or they make an extra drone by accident, or they supply block for a second, anything, they just die straight up. So that's kind of what I was banking towards, and they worked perfectly.
Well, this I watched this and I was like, man, you beasted it. It was just just rushed down. I was like, oh crap. And that's why I chose this game specifically, because I was like, I want to know how this worked, because you rushed her, you rushed her down, right? So
right. Yeah, I mean, the whole point is you play super greedy, no scout, every probe matters. You go gas first, which amplifies your gas income. Because with this build, you also pull probes of gas, but with gas first, you can pull it a lot earlier. That way, you have even more middle income. Right. And overall, it's basically a regular 4-gate version. It's just a little faster, and most Zergs are used to the regular version, so all their timings are geared towards defending 8 adepts at 430. But here it's 428, but it's also 9 adepts, and also after that, I'm not gonna warp in 4 extra adepts. I'm gonna warp in 5 extra adepts. So then it scales to 14 adepts instead of 12. So it's just constant scale where, if Zerg doesn't know what's coming, it's definitely very hard for them.
Feels like it snowballs.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I went for the Stalker first this game, and which is kind of what I usually do, to go for glaives. So Chrono Boost first Stalker, first Adept as well.
How important is it to deny Zerg information for this build to work?
Oh yes, super important. I mean, I want to say a lot of the time, say I make a robo in the wall. So honestly, because I was a little paranoid about link floods. So making a robo in the wall makes you a little safer, but not by much. But yeah, I kind of don't care, because by showing a robo, I'm kind of showing my cards, it's probably going to be glaives. No one really goes robo like this. If you're gonna you can't really have a Stargate behind this. So that was kind of expected. But yeah, I mean, the night scout is important. For example, the last game that we watched against JonSnow, that was a lot more important for me to deny scout, because I was trying to hide Stargate, and I was trying to sell that was this kind of build.
Right.
This game I was kind of showing it. I didn't care about scouting much. I care about hitting the best timing I can, which is what I was gearing for. And as you can see, I have 4 gateways on the way instead of instead of 3. And 2 gateways will finish at the same time the war gate finishes, so I can warp in 3 adepts. So it'll be 4 total instead of... because usually you make 2 adepts with this build, and then 2 gateways finish, and you warp in 2 more, it ends up being 4. But with this build, you make only 1 adept. That way you can make 4 extra gateways, but then your 3 gateways finish earlier, so you make warp in 3 adepts, and you end up with a 4 anyway. So it ends up being the same amount of adepts, but just extra gateway. So then you warp in 5 adepts, and then... and see, like, I'm on the other side of the map with the warpism at 415. And she made 2 spores, because she was a little, I guess, afraid of DT's potential.
Okay.
And
DT's is what she's worried. I thought she'd be worried about more for like drops, because you do a lot of like warpism shenanigans.
Well, against drops you have queens. You don't really worry about, like, you don't make spores for
right
for the most part. It's definitely DT's, because actually when we played that tournament in EPT Cup, I did the build where I pretended to go 4 Gateway Glaive, and I moved out with 4 adepts with without glaives, and then I warped in 3 DTs. And she didn't have a spore. She still managed to win that game. Like, she sneaked out a spore and stuff. But I think that's what she was worried about for sure. But as you can see, adepts just got in too early, did too much damage, and there's just adepts everywhere, and the drones are just dying left and right.
Everywhere. Yeah, they're everywhere. And you're attacking on 2 fronts, which I really love. I loved a bit.
Yeah, I feel like after the first wave is done. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, that's a lot of worker kills.
Oh, yeah. If Zerg loses more than 10, like, it's pretty over. Because, like, I'm a little more all-in than normal with this build. Because, like, I usually you get to make a lot more probes. Because you only warp in 4 adepts. So, you have extra 100 middles to make probes. But here, because you make 5 adepts, you're a little more broke. So it's a little more all-in than usual. But it's usually not all-in at all. But still, if Zerg loses just a little too much, then adept scales, I can just fight roaches. And then drones just always die, and there's never enough units for Zerg to split 2 places at once. So adepts will always do something. There was a counter attack to my natural, but I think I had a shield. Oh no, I didn't make a shield battery. That was kind of being probably a little too greedy. I should have made a shield battery earlier.
Yeah, I think you just drop a pylon, was it? Yeah,
right, I made a pylon, then just warp in some adepts behind. But honestly, shield battery should have been there, and that would solve all my problems, because that way Stalker doesn't even die.
No, what for the Zerg? What does the Zerg need to do to counter something? Like, what should you watch out from as a Protoss? Like, if Zerg is trying to counter this?
Well, the first thing, linger around buys can be scary, because they always have overlords on top of your natural. So some Zergs will do, they'll make like 10 to 15 links or something like that. I'm not really sure about the numbers. And then when your 4 adepts originally shade out and you only have a stalker in the wall, they'll attack the stalker in the wall, and then you'll be forced to warp in at home defensively. And as soon as that happens, they just pull links back. So now you have 4 adepts on the other side of the map, 4 adepts at home, and you can't properly attack anymore. So like that's why shield battery is sometimes very good if you know that Zergs goes through this kind of things. Right. But it's kind of hard to predict, because if you have shield battery, then the links don't do anything, and then you still have 8 adepts across the map, and it's still everything's according to the plan. But most of the time, Zerg just needs to have enough units. It's one of those things where just this build scales. So like if Zerg holds the first wave and trades well with adepts, then Protoss just loses, because Zerg gets so many drones after that, and they already have so many roaches to defend, so they don't have to make more. And then like Protoss just loses, or it's the opposite, where I get too many drone kills, and then Zerg has to choose. They either have to make more roaches to properly defend, but then they're just behind economically and die anyway, or they try to drone and defend with whatever units they have, but then there's a chance I'll just like outscale them with adepts. So it's always hard. It's a very scaly build from both sides.
So how do you think it compares with 4-gate Adept? It sounds very similar in trade-offs, where you have to get damage in order to make the 4-gate build worth it. Do you think this build's stronger than the 4-gate build?
For this build is definitely well, as I said before, it comes a little faster, 5 gates instead of 4, 9 adepts instead of 8. So it is stronger. It is more all-in, once again, because you're cutting probes a little early. You can't replace them as fast. And I would say this build with a 4-gate, you can actually a lot of times, because there's so many variations of 4-gate glaive. Because there are variations where you don't take gases on the natural right away, but there are some where you as soon as you move out with 8 adepts, you already have your 4 gases and you already have Robo Bay. So you're already transitioning. So then you literally don't have to do any damage. You just need to force out roaches, and you need to force out response, force out low drone count, and then you just go disruptor drop behind. And sometimes people even warp in like.
I want to see this part again. I love this part.
But they warp in like 4 stalkers sometimes and just snipe overlords, and then after that they get 2 disruptors and drop them, and they have like 50 probes behind. So every time is a little different. So it just kind of depends what Protoss follow-up is going to be.
One of the things I wanted to point out too is like, I wanted to ask you, but did you plan this on purpose, where you brought the Immortals up to the top and cut off the Zerg?
That's definitely like my fame. That's my trick move for sure.
But you do it in other games, so I was like, I figured you kind of like this is your thing, but I wanted to get
right, because if you just attack in front, then roaches get like a proper surround on you. It's much harder to fight. But if you actually manage to just, it's very hard for Zerg, right? Because when you shade, they kind of have to fight you there, but they also have to follow the shades. So you see, like she's trying to split the army, she doesn't really know what's gonna happen, and then sometimes I could cancel here. If I see that the whole army, I just cancel and I just go back and I get a good position in the natural. Or if I see that there's too many roaches attacking my depths, I just commit, and then Zerg has to go up the ramp. And then there's 2 Immortals shooting at them. I warp in 8 more adepts, and it's just very hard for them to go up the ramp. Sometimes you can even warp in the Sentry, but usually you can't really warp in an advance because you need 2 Immortals in the Prism.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward to get a Sentry out. You probably can, but it's just too much work a lot of the times, and you usually don't have gas. Like this game I have extra gas, I'm not too sure why, but usually you don't, because you're only mining gas with like 2 probes and 3 gases or something. But yeah, this move is very strong because it forces Zerg in such an awkward position where they have to go up the ramp, and the adepts are like in the perfect concave.
Yeah, and you get them in the really awkward position where sometimes they're halfway up there or like struggle, like still in the middle of the ramp.
Right. Sometimes it's not ideal, but
yeah. Well, sometimes you like even this part here looks really good for you. So
right.
Is there any merit in warping in a Sentry and just force fielding the ramp?
Yeah, I feel like you could. I think this game in particular, that definitely would be the move because it was only 1 Ravager. A lot of times there's like more than 1, so then warping in a Sentry sometimes is a waste. But Forceful is always kind of good. It's just it kind of depends. Like if I feel like I have enough adepts, I'll warp in some Sentries. But if I'm afraid that I don't have enough adepts, then I'll definitely just focus on warping in 8 adepts, and that's it.
For sure. I mean, at that point, the game was pretty over. So
right. Yeah.
You do, but...
Was there times you did it, I think even against Namshar, where you did it as well, and you used sentries to block him up. You tricked him to go up with the adepts. He went up the ramp. You canceled your shades and then used your sentries to block him up there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't remember that, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of things you can do with shades.
Very tricky. And I saw that, and you did it before, and I saw that. So when you have something like that for Zerg, how do you kind of, once you've done it once, you can't really do that again, can you? You can't really do that build again, can you? In the same.
With 5 Glaive?
Yeah.
Well, I did it again in game 3, but I butchered it. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. It was a little weird because, I did it on Death Aura. It ended up, I don't know if we were gonna watch it or not, but it was like, I guess I didn't do my research well enough. I was kind of just banking on the. I just want to take my map for that series, kind of like I guess it was a bad mindset by me, where like I went to the series just hoping for 1 map win, and once I got it, I kind of just like. I just then ran out of ideas, and I wasn't like fast enough on the feet to think of something else. But I didn't know she places her overlords where she did, so I put all my buildings right under the overlord, so she knew exactly what was going on. So she skipped spores that game, so she had extra roaches, and then I also did a really bad shade. I shaded on top of all the units, and my first 9 adepts just got murdered, and then that was just game over, like straight up. Like it was like the opposite of game 1, where like game 1, like. Build wasn't scouted. I shade in. I do damage. There's 2 spores that were needed. And then I just scale and I win the game. And on Death Aura, it was the opposite. My build gets scouted. I shade in, lose all my adepts, and she scales.
For sure. But do you have any other choice other than shade in? Like, you've built 9 of
that. Yeah, for sure.
You've got to shade in and commit, right?
No, actually, like, there are situations where you can wait for extra weapons. Because the thing is, Zerg stays on low drone count. So... sometimes it's better to wait and just wait for the better shade, because once you get like 17 adepts, you can one-shot roaches. So there comes a point where you can just straight up fight roaches. So you shade, you let the lings follow the shade, and then you just right-click roaches one by one. So there are situations where you can just wait up. So you don't actually have to go every game for sure.
Gotcha. So was it just you didn't have the information?
I honestly, I pressed escape, it didn't go through. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think I pressed escape. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I had a prism in that and the adept hotkey. So you pressed on the prism instead of adept. Maybe I had adepts that something happened. I was trying to shade because I was like, I see a bunch of units in the spine, and then I just shade last second anyway.
Gotcha.
So definitely
that happens sometimes.
Yep.
The wild misclick.
I know.
So yeah, so you actually ended up in that game. You ended up finishing. Is it 2-1?
Yeah, we lost 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1. Yeah, because then you end up going at what was it? Jag, and then Death Aura. So that your last game was in Death Aura. Remember that. So in this next one we're about to go in now is you against Namshar, lower bracket, round 1. One of the things I was curious about is the maps that you struck down Submarine and he struck down Romanticide. Why did you strike Submarine?
I just don't like the map. I actually, it's kind of weird. When I played Namshar on my Smurf, on which I don't veto maps, because I veto maps on my main PiLiPiLi account, but I don't on a different account. And I played him 2 times, and I would win 2 times, but I still have 0 confidence on the map, because I always have to do some really weird gimmick, and I just didn't have a good gimmick for Submarine, and I don't play enough to know. And he vetoed Romanticide because I think he didn't want to play Skytoss.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, here we are. Oxide. So what's the deal with Oxide? Actually, out of all the games you played the tournament, you didn't play this map. This is the only game you played this map. So, or at least, sorry, against Zerg. So what was like?
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't mind it. It's a good map. Nothing wrong with it. PvZ. I guess it just kind of maybe Zerg's vetoed it against me. I don't know. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But a good map for me. I think now I remember the game. I tried the same thing. I go gas first, don't I? Yeah, gas first. And I tried to go for Fire Gate. And now I remember the game. He actually metagamed me hardcore.
Oh, did he?
Because so he actually died to Astrea doing this build in the group stages. He lost to Astrea doing the 5-gate gas first glaive build. He just like Adept show up. It was like the same as I won against Scarlett. Like Adept show up and he just like takes too much damage. More Adept show up, he just dies. So in this game, he actually went for 2-base Roach. He went 2-base Slayer Roach. So when I showed up there with my 9 Adepts, I just see like 20 Roaches. So I'm like, all right, cool. So then I just backed off and just had to play a normal game. But yeah, he definitely metagamed in this game. He knew what's up. He did his research.
Oh, so he he had your number. He figured you out.
Right.
There's something I noticed too, and maybe I try to look at it, and I don't watch a lot of PvZ, but I noticed sometimes Zergs, not on this map, but on Jag, last time I saw that Scarlett skipped her natural and went to her 3rd. And then Namshar also did the same thing as well. And I couldn't tell if it was because you're blocking or if they just something I missed.
Oh.
They know.
Yeah. So basically the way it works in PvZ, Protoss can either do 13 pylon instead of 14 and then send the probe across the map. And they get there right before the 16 hatch comes. So they just block it and they have to take a 3rd. Because they can't do anything else. Pull first doesn't work. Attacking the probe doesn't work because they just make a pylon. So they always have to take a 3rd. Or Protoss can just send as soon as the game starts, Protoss sends a probe. Because what happened, the way the meta evolved. So first Zed started doing that every game. The guy would go 13 pylon and then block Zerg's natural. So Zerg's player said, fuck this, I'm going to take 14 hatch. So that way they get the hatch before the probe counts. So that happened for a bit. Then Zest was like, well, fuck that. I'm going to send the probe as soon as the game starts. So he started doing that. And then they try to go 14 hatch. Still not fast enough. They have to take a 3rd. Or maybe it wasn't like 14 hatch. Sometimes it's like 15 hatch. Sometimes they do gas tricks. Sometimes they skip Overlord. There's little things that Zerg would do to try to get a hatch before the pylon block comes. And so then now people send the probe right away. And then people actually figured out that economically speaking, for Protoss, it's actually better to probe scout right away than to go 13 pylon. Because if you go 14 pylon, it's not fast enough to block them. So you either send the probe right away 13 pylon, and people figured out that economically speaking, it's better to scout right away. So people just do that, and Zergs figure out that it's better to just take a third base as your natural, and not even worry about it, because trying to do this early hatch things, it's okay, but you still kind of shoot yourself in the foot if they don't, because Protoss can also just not do it, and then you're an idiot taking 15 hatch or 14 hatch, and they just so basically people just take a third base now, and they kind of have before too, and not everyone was trying to do 40, 50 hatch. People, right. A lot of people also just would take the third, but yeah, that's kind of how it went.
So I noticed sometimes, like even like you didn't in some of the games, all you did is you put your probe there, and they didn't even try. They just went straight for the third.
Oh yeah, because it's pointless. They can't do anything. They know that.
Yeah, naturally.
And yeah, as you can see, it's it's a 3 minute 40 seconds. This guy already has roach speed on the way with a layer. So like he was like this game. If I went for Stargate this game, that would be a great meta game. But see, I thought that he wouldn't do it. I thought this is gonna work, and he got me on the mental warfare this time, because he skipped spores, he very few coins, and he's just like making roaches blindly. I don't think he knew much this game.
So wait, so what was the thing for you that indicated to you, like that he did, that made you think that he was going to commit, or that your build was going to be this would work this time? I
just never seen him do 2-base roach. I know Champ does this build. I know, like, if I was playing against Champ, I probably wouldn't do this, because I'm kind of assuming he's going to go 2-base roach a lot of the times, because that's the way he stays safe. But Namshar always takes a third and just defends normally, so I thought he was going to be all right. But then again, like, this build is just, like, as long as you don't die to early pull, even if, like, they hard counter you like that, it's not bad. Like, it's a worst-case scenario, but it's not even bad. See, I'm just transitioning to Robo Bay. I still have adepts. I still can like do some stuff. He defended really well even on top of it. Like the queens zoned out my prism. The other adept shade didn't do too much. But it's not the end of the world, so I'm not too worried. Like it's a universally good build. Probably doing like a greedier version would be better, because I did like a more of a all-in version with 5 gates and cutting probes. But it's still like it's not terrible, because his third is also super delayed, and he's high in drones. Like he's ahead by all means, but it's not the end of the world. Definitely playable.
For this build, like what's the it's playable, but is there like a lot of risk involved? Like,
well, with this build specifically, as I said, any cheese Zerg does, you just die, because you play gas first, no scout. Right. But also, I mean, overall, like even if you're doing the regular version, like as we've seen, Zest versus Rogue finals, Zest just dies to Link Floods, Bane Bust, and Roach all-ins 4 games in a row, because he keeps going for the 4-gate glaive, because that build is super unsafe versus all-ins. Like you have to have a perfect wall, perfect reaction, perfect shield battery timings and stuff to even have a chance against some of the Zerg all-ins. So yes, all-ins are very scary, and but for the most part, like if you execute the build well, and if you don't throw your adepts away for free, and you have a good follow-up, the game is always playable afterwards.
That's good.
Because Zerg has to stay for if they do normal build, not 2-base roach, they have to stay on 38 drones to defend, and you will be at 44 probes. So you're ahead in economy, but you're behind in tech, and then one Zerg has enough roaches, they just press the drone button, and suddenly they're at 60. But you slowly take your third, and then you can either follow up with the Arc and drop, or Disruptor drop, or you can do committed all-ins. Sometimes you just do Immortal, Adept all-in follow-up. So there's a lot of follow-ups, and Zerg has to look out for it. But I would say it's like a macro build. It's very aggressive, but it could just be a normal macro build. Because that's kind of what Zest did. Once he first popularized this build, he would do this glaive build, and sometimes he would just win with it. But when he doesn't just win with it, then he just plays Stalker Colossus after, and he's perfectly fine.
Oh, scouting you out.
Right. This game, I was kind of I think my biggest mistake was not getting upgrades on time. I think I stood on I didn't get Blink or +1 for the longest time, which definitely should have been there, I think, because I was trying to just do all in. Because I was trying to do 2 Disruptor, 1 Colossus Gateway all in with a third behind it. But I definitely had the opportunity to just transition much earlier. I was kind of blindsided by it.
It seems hard to go all in from a position where they commit so much to army.
Right, exactly.
It's going to be hard to have a bigger army than what they've already made.
it's you're kind of hoping that like when they're doing the switch, like when they're making like Hydras, for example, and sometimes they go like Mutus or something like that. You kind of trying to hit the timing before that, or you hope that they overdrone and can't make enough Ravagers or something like that. So there's definitely some timings, but yeah, like they already have a huge amount of roaches, so it's very hard to break.
One of the things that and yeah, you mentioned the upgrades. Actually, that's in the. We'll see this too eventually. That you end up only having +1, and he has +3 by the time of this ends.
Oh,
but
yeah.
This composition, I was going to ask you about it because you're gonna go up against Roachers and a ton of Ravagers, and it seemed like Colossus was your Colossus. Colossus and Disruptors is your core, like. You back and forth with Colossus Disruptors. And I don't know if remember if it's this particular game, but where you go heavy on the Colossus. I think it might be the game after this, but
oh yeah, this game, yeah, I didn't go too heavy because I don't have I skipped the Colossus range this game because I skipped the Colossus range. So
yes. You get Thermal Lance very late.
Right, because I was just planning to win with one Colossus, and I made the second one just because I had money, I think, at the time. And I was just trying to end the game here. But I think this is where I should have just backed off. I killed the 4th base, just back off, get your +1, get your Thermal Lance, another Colossus, and it's perfectly fine. Like, he's getting high if it's rough. But you can go around, kill his another 4th, and just kind of be ahead, like, economically, I feel like. But I was way too stubborn. Like, I kept trying to end the game right here. Because I felt like I just needed one good Disruptor shot, one good Blink, or like anything. I'm also, am I making another Twilight? I just now realized I'm making another Twilight. What's wrong with me?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I could have already had a Blink on the way. We're done. Yeah, it's really hard. But this kind of situation where like I can't go forward because there's so many Ravagers, but he can't go at me because of Disruptors and Force Fields. So it's just like such an awkward dance for the longest time. I really wasn't sure what to do. Because I honestly don't do this build all that often, so I was really like, am I supposed to keep pushing? Should I do something? And I was just super indecisive, I feel like. Where like in hindsight, I should have just like went home, get upgrades, Colossus, Thermal Lens, get a 4th base, cancel his 4th. Because I feel like I have enough army to just go and cancel his 4th before the Vipers come. But that was too slow.
Yeah, so you do this dance for quite a while, and then even I think it might be game 4 where you go up and you put more heavy. In game 4, you end up doing more Colossus and get Thermal Glance faster.
Right.
So I'm guessing.
I believe I went for like a Stargate opening, and then I just went like double Colossus or double Robo Colossus, and then just tried to do the timing. But he did this like thing where he just like ran like 12 roaches in my natural, and I totally like choked. And then I looked at my army, and it's getting overrun by Balings. So that was just a good play by him. He was definitely ready, but it's a little bit of a different build because it comes like one comes from Oracle opening and the other one is from Glaive Adept. So with Oracle opening, obviously your economy is like booming because you're like your 3rd is fast, you have a bunch of probes early, you have 4 gases early, so you can afford like double Robo, you can afford fast +1, Blink, all of that. With this build, you're kind of broke. I start with like the super aggressive build. My 3rd is super late. I barely have any money. So this was like a much more all-in version, but I guess both were all-ins, but this one is a lot less quality units because like I barely even have any sentries at this point.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, once Vipers show up, that's just so sad. That was a good shot.
Yeah, that was a good.
And we got a Viper. Yeah, that was my time. If I had Blink, I actually could have had Blink here if I didn't start a second Twilight for no reason, waiting for that. If I just started the Blink instead of that, I would have Blink here. And I just Blink on top and win, I think. Or at least I'll catch a lot more units, right?
Yeah, in game 4, you end up doing that. You end up doing, you get Blink on point, you get Thermal Lance earlier, and you rush him down. You ended up losing that game too, but it was a lot more cleaner.
Right, yeah, for sure. This is.
Yeah, because this is a little like I'm obviously no position to position, but it feels less like
wrestling fine, right? Well, I also think like I was just a little like not even into it mentally because I was planning to do this Colossus all-ins like as I'm doing my preparation for best of 5, like that build on Pillars was like I knew I was gonna do it and I did it, but here I was banking on just ending the game with Glaive Adepts into Immortal all-in on 2 bases. But then he went 2 base Roach, so I had to like pivot during the game. So in my mind, like Like I wasn't mentally prepared to do all of that, and oh my god, this blink just hurts my soul.
Hold on. So
those blinding clouds really.
I know, it's just so sad.
Just say at first this looked like it was just a few minutes ago. It looked like you were in a better spot, and it was like, okay, you're concaving, but then you got blinding clouds, and I was like, oh, okay.
God, that was so awkward. I really didn't know what was happening, honestly.
And one thing also, your upgrades. What are we at upgrades, right?
+1. That's not too, +1 plus +2. It's bad, but you know, it's
not too bad
so far. I mean,
okay.
Ideally I would have +2, but I'm not too sad about the upgrades. I don't think.
Oops. I pushed too far.
Yeah, I should have just had blink here. What? Definitely should have had blink.
You could have chased him down.
Yeah, I would just shove a lot more units. Obviously, he has a bang, but he doesn't have any gas. He's just gonna only make links. I have Colossus, so I definitely could have gotten a lot more damage done here.
Man, if only you could have just blinked right there.
Right?
You could have picked quite a few units off, and then here you probably just push through.
And now blink finally finishes. +1 is almost ready too. Oh yeah, we also started the fight without +1. Okay, just now finishes. Interesting. Lose the Colossus, but I have so many stuff. I feel like I should have won here. I have so many stuff.
Well, that's what I mean, because
blink in the main. I don't know. Actually, yeah, blink in the main. Isn't that the move right now? That 100% is the move.
Yeah.
I only have like 1 disruptor, 1 immortal loaded up, and with disruptors he can never go up the ramp. He doesn't have any more.
You could have forced him to come up the main.
I'm so disappointed now. I'm like reliving this lost second time. I didn't think about this first time when I was watching the replays, but I should have just blinked at the main.
That's a good plan. It's always hard to think of those things on the fly, though.
Yeah, definitely. But it would be a perfect scenario because like I have no, and even if I had Colossus, they can just walk up that ramp.
Right.
I did, and then you just blink.
Oh yeah.
Immortal Disruptor on the ramp, and he can never push. He just loses his hive. He's on 2 bases. I just recall, take the 4th, remax. I'm good. Right. Or I just win the game right there. I don't know.
Because if you blink up to the main, then he's gonna have to respond. But you still have your disruptors down here. So
yeah, I don't think he can. I don't think you can go out the ramp against the concave.
Not when there's a disruptor. Like
yeah,
not with the disruptor. Not with the disruptor.
And the Vipers are all dead. So, and he has no gas for me. Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah,
but even that, 3. Like I guess if he re-gets the energy, which will take him a while, with blinding clouds, he can probably go atop the ramp and force the Stalkers in a bad position. But I probably might snipe the hive by then, and then just either blink out or recall.
Yeah, but you can get blinding cloud a disruptor, can you?
Oh no! I mean, you can pull the disruptor, I guess.
Okay.
But I'm more thinking, like, if the Stalker has a good concave on top of the ramp, then he can use blinding cloud to kind of make the concave like disappear, because then I have to like retreat or go forward. But yeah, what a mistake.
Yeah, because the blinding cloud here is kind of like it's rough.
Oh yeah, they're completely destroying me. There's so many units attacked. Like it looks such a good concave for me, and I have more units, but
it looks like a great
concave.
My
units are not attacking. My units are not attacking.
It looks like a great concave for you at first. It was like, look at this, but then it's the blinding cloud makes the difference.
Yeah, the immortal is just lagging behind. Yikes.
And
even then, it wasn't that bad of a trade either.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got the Vipers too. Okay, that's. Did you come out on this one at the end? Maybe it's not like that.
I think this is that. That was it. I keep doing patience blinks and it's just not working out. Oh no. I mean, upgrades do make a role now. Like +2 Hydras are kind of shredding my units. Not trading the best. I have charge in a way. Actually, maybe making some adepts here would make sense because there's so many Hydras. It's just Hydras and Links for the most part. Actually, yeah, some adepts would be nice too.
What are you making now? Oh,
I've been making Stalkers. Oh yeah, charge too. But yeah, adepts actually would be nice because I have upgrades for them. Oof.
See, now you're gonna end up just retreating.
Yeah, that's tragic.
How much do you believe the differences in like upgrades make a difference? Oh, actually, never mind. He's only on 2. I thought he was on 3 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps him a lot, but I don't think that's what's killing me. It's all my aggressive links. Because yeah, I was winning that fight on even supply with lesser upgrades, so I don't think it's that big of a deal.
How do you feel about your spot in the game now? Like you did lose a lot of tech units, but it doesn't seem like it's unplayable.
Yeah, it's
unbiased or biased.
I feel like I was alright. The problem for me, I didn't have the fourth base because I think he lost some drones, but it like doesn't matter because if you look at my main is not mining. Natural has like 4 patches. Third has like a couple patches as well. So like I have all those probes, but they're barely mining.
Gotcha.
And he actually has a fourth that he just sends a bunch of drones to. And then the fact that he has Viper, like if I manage to somehow get rid of the Vipers and hide, but now he has Lurker Viper, and that's just I need double robo for it. I need the Skyter's transition later, and I'm on half base right now. I'm trying to take another one. Once I get it, I have probe count, but.
Wait, do you have an observer? Where's your observer? Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I might not even have an observer, too. Yep, no observer. I think I somehow...
no observer.
Oh, yeah, just force a recall, huh? Yeah, getting that base is big. But Lost Colossus, once again, losing tech units, all the expensive stuff while barely mining. Finally starting the thermal lens.
Yeah, you lost your tech units, and you sniped a base, but I don't know if you can defend your new base now.
Did he? Oh, he did get it. He did snipe it.
Yeah, supplies are... I feel like, what's the resources lost tab? I'm kind of afraid to look, but...
No.
That's not bad at all.
That's really good.
I don't know how. Like, I feel like I've done everything wrong this game, and it's still playable at every stage. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of sad. Yeah, I guess some of the stalker trades were good, and I guess there were too many Ravagers. Maybe I'm not I can't even tell why I'm even in this game still because I feel like I've made so many mistakes that I feel like I should be out of them. Maybe Namshar was a macroing. I mean, his economy was crippled. Like I did a couple good moves with snapping his drones or economy or bases. But yeah, it's interesting how I'm in this for so long.
His economy was definitely stifled for quite some time. Because he did snipe his fourth early.
Right.
And he did commit pretty heavily to defending your early aggression with the 5 gates.
That's true, yeah, his third base was very late.
So moving on to this feels like super daunting because you only have the one Colossus. Ooh.
Right, and
never mind.
And yeah, right. Yeah, now I'm just on Soccer Center. This is like heart of the swarm.
Yeah, moving on to lurkers. I don't know, man. Feels bad. I don't know.
I'm trying to get second robo, disruptors and stuff. But yeah, once I have Viper lurker, like you want a Skytoss transition, but I'm just too broke. Simply too I don't think I'm even mining gases in the main anymore. So I'm like, yeah, I just can't afford anything. That's the problem. Yeah, I'm trying to do some dance with stock and shoes trade as well as possible. Keeping the stock Colossus behind so it doesn't get sniped.
Oh, to get snatched up. Okay, got it.
But yeah, once he has like this lurker set up, like not much I can do. And like I need Oracle in this situation too, so I can like keep track of where his lurkers and Vipers are with the revelation. But yeah, as I said,
you're too broke. No way. Yeah, no way to get a. Oh, what's happening?
I made some attempts to kill some drones. Yeah.
So one thing I've been wondering from the start of the game, right? So you move out. He commits very, very heavily to roaches and ravagers off of 2 bases. Is there any merit in throwing down the Stargate then as follow up? And maybe make a raise, try and transition.
Well, in this game, it's a little problematic because he does have early layer, so and there's no way for me to stop Overseer Scout. And if they scout double Stargate like that, then you're definitely dead, because it's just like you committed so much to Adepts, they do nothing. Then you commit to Stargates, they do nothing. But they are built, at least they used to be. I think it's kind of less popular, but the Glaive Adept and the double Stargate definitely used to be a thing, and it still very much could work. It's just I think like people just kind of decided that like a Disruptor follow up or a DT follow up is just generally better.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but it definitely is possible. It's just a little hard to hide, I think, because they always I think the overseer just gets there just on time, but perhaps it's definitely not off the top.
It's definitely the kind of thing you'd see at my level of play. That's for sure. Oh, they don't have any anti-air. I guess I just win now.
Sure.
But I guess if there is not a lot of merit when it's easily scoutable.
Right.
Have you played like? I noticed that you haven't played like Namshar a lot in general, or at least that's what Wikipedia told me. But like you played in the EPT Cups, like 36 and 33.
Yeah, I play him in the one finals. That's when I actually won 3-0, and then I play him like a week after, early in the tournament, and I lost 2-0. We play a lot here and there. He probably has like a solid 70% winner against me, so he was always favorite in the matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't play as much as like, let's say, JonSnow, who I just have like a huge match history with. But that also comes down to Namshar is coming from Europe. He hasn't been in the region for that long, so I haven't played yet. That's kind of the reason we don't have that long of a history. But this year we've played a fair amount, I feel like.
So, when you were going to the game, what did you do did you do any preparation for Namshar in general, or did you just,
Well, mostly I knew that he was just kind of trying to play normal. Like I know that he has. Well, in one of the games on Death Or, he did like this hatchery in my natural into roach all in.
Yes.
I was prepared for that. I knew that he was doing that a lot, pretty much in every series that he played before. Obviously, I watched all the VODs, but he did do the hatch every game in the Protoss natural, and then he would follow up with different things. So I was ready for that, and I'm fairly good with responding to proxy hatches. So I just knew I'd pull 5 probes, make zealot, make a couple of adepts, scout with adepts, scouted the roach all in, defend it. It was kind of a free game for me, I feel like. I guess that's the only gimmick I knew that he would do. And the rest, I knew that he was just going to try to defend whatever I'm going to throw at him. So I knew I was in the driver's seat for the most of the series. It was just like whatever I throw at him, he has to prepare for me rather than I have to prepare for him. But obviously, I practiced the build. I had some other builds in mind that I didn't get to show because the series didn't go the way I wanted to, and some maps weren't played. But I was going to do some Voidry stuff. Just didn't get my map. Hermeticide got banned. And on Death Aura, he proxy hatch. I was going to go Voidry stuff on Death Aura, but he ended up proxy hatching. So I just ended up not doing that because he did Roach all in. I think I went Robo. And yeah.
I noticed in your games too that against Namshar, against Zerg, you have you did really well. Like Light Side seems to be one of them. Yeah. But you didn't get to do that that was your game 5 game supposedly against
really?
Namshar.
Yeah, that map is really good for adepts because of the way the ramp works, and like the third base is kind of far away from the natural. It's also weird, like the way my main base is positioned, like the rush distance from my main to the third is fairly low. So if I make a robo in my main or even natural, they're really fast. So like the timings on adept pushes are good. And then it's fairly easy to maneuver between main and the third, and Zerg has a really hard time defending. So
I was wondering. Yeah, it was against JonSnow and Scarlett. You both won your light side, your matches on light side, but you didn't get to play your game on light side against JonSnow. So I mean, not JonSnow, against Namshar.
Right.
Your last game was on Pillars of Gold. So I don't think did we see a Pillars of Gold game? So what is your thoughts on Pillars of Gold? I'm curious in general.
Well, that build wasn't exactly like something I practiced too much because it's not exactly my style. But once again, I knew that I can't do the triple Stargate Phoenix. I knew that I can't do any of that because he was just going to be ready. But he just caught me off guard with the roaches. Like I moved out, and then like 10 roaches move into my natural, and then my warpins are cooled down. The recall, I didn't have energy on the Stargates or something. I just didn't want to recall, and then I tried to just warp in and defend like that, and then the roaches kept doing damage. And then I look at my army, it gets run down by Bailings, and we don't trade too well. He gets Vipers on time, the game's over. Like he just played really well. I feel like that game, his timing point, he read what I was doing, he scouted, he counterattacked, he got his units on time, he had lurkers in good position. I just couldn't do anything.
All right, so we're wrapping up close to the end. Final thoughts, Doc? Before
I know that next time I play Protoss against Zerg, I might try the 5-gate build. That's definitely.
I like this build. I really like the build. I really do. I really like. I don't think I have the skill to pull it off, but I like it a lot.
If you get the timing right, and if you don't die to 12 pull, 100% you got to depot Zergs with just first 9
I
attacks.
was gonna say, like, I'm Diamond right now, and I'm afraid to try and pull that off in Diamond because I'm gonna get all in like every other game.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest problem. It's definitely like it's not the build for your MMR. It's definitely like a tournament build where you know you're not gonna get cheesed.
But it seems fun.
So actually, that's a good question. Well, let's before we get close to wrapping up, what would be your recommendation build for an MMR build? What's a good ladder build for against Zerg, PvZ, and we'll keep this as our tournament build. What's a good
I think the 4-gate glaive is good. Just don't do the like gas first 5-gate version because you can just do like normal gateway scout. Make sure you don't get 12 pulled. If they're playing hatch first and then they play normal, you can execute it. And if they're doing something fishy, you can just go just defend. Like if it's 12 pull, you just defend it like you normally would. Doesn't really matter. It is a little risky against like Bane Bust, as I said. And so but you can kind of halt. You just have to have a very good reaction on your adept because you're meant to like share adept inside the base and then put a pylon behind, and then adept usually survives in like 1 HP or something like that. Right. And but it's like you have to react super well. But for ladder, technically, just going Stargate every game is probably like the best because it saves you from random all-ins, and you can do like mass Voiders memes nowadays for sure. If you don't want to play like a normal Oracle into 3rd macro, you can just do like Voidray first, then throw around 2nd Stargate, 8 Voidrays, then take a 3rd, and then either go Sky Toss or just mass like Charge Lot Archon.
It's Silver League Wings of Liberty all over again.
Pretty much. It's now legit. It's now legit.
I've missed the Void Raids so much. I like the new changes. So I'm a fan of where they are now. Actually, how are you feeling with like stuff like that, Void Raids and those kind of changes for Protoss?
I'm not too good with that style.
Yeah.
Ever since even like the Void Ray buff came through, like everyone was like proxying a Stargate every game. I was one of the few pros. Like you would think that would be my thing. But I never really was good with Voiders.
Yeah. You just never like an aggressive Protoss. A proxy Voider is definitely the strat.
Yeah, and I just never got into it. Sometimes I do try some like mass Voiders on ladder here and there, but I haven't played it enough to find consistency. So like I probably wouldn't try it in tournaments too much. But who knows? Maybe.
Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up. So, PiLi, why don't you tell us about what you're up to now and where people can find you and keep up to what you're doing?
Can definitely find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/PiLiPiLi96. I'm sure the links will be in the description somewhere or something.
Yep, absolutely.
Same with YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/PiLiPiLi, something like that. I'm kind of new to YouTube, so I don't even know how links work anymore. I'm assuming it's PiLiPiLi because that's my channel name, but who knows? And I guess same Twitter. I've been active on Twitch and YouTube the most. So if you guys want to look some content, some educational, some serious, some challenges, that's my YouTube and my stream. And yeah, that's about it.
And all those will be linked in the description. So you guys want to check it out, just check it down there below. Actually, what kind of have you done any interesting new series on your YouTube? You say you're doing education. I'm curious now.
I started 2. One of them was getting 6K MMR in Korea. So pretty straightforward. I just start a new account, ladder in Korea until I get 6K MMR. Usually I'm like at around 5,800. So once we get there, we'll try to push it. And the other one is getting GM with no gas. So I just don't take gas ever. So it's basically just proxy gate and cannon rush every game. But I'm not allowed to take gas. So you can't even do the cool version because, like in PvZ, when you cannon rush, you're supposed to like follow up with the robo, and then do immortal stuff. So I can't do that. I just proxy gate in PvZ and then cannon rush on the matchups.
And then follow up with slow zealots.
Pretty much. Well, in PvP, it's actually a good build. Like if you watch that Stray vs. New finals where he did the proxy 2-gate plus Forge, that's actually legit.
In PvP, you also have the ability to build cannons a little closer, which probably makes it a little.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can actually kill them with cannons. While in PvZ, you technically can never kill their hatch with cannons. So if they know what you're doing, if they know you're doing the challenge, they'll just turtle on one base till they have Broodlords. You will die every time. So proxy gate, I feel like is the only way to go for PvZ. But you can do cannon stuff too. So I've been playing around with that.
Winning with no gas with Protoss is gonna be hard because you don't have anything that shoots up with no gas, right?
The very first game of the challenge, Terran player tells me, see you in 15 minutes, flows his buildings, flows them to the corner of the map. So I had to break the challenge the very first game because I was like, well, fuck this guy. I'm making gases, I'm making avoiding kill. But the very first game I played, Darren flows his buildings to the corner of the map. I had to break it right away.
Oh, that's funny.
Not even, yeah, that was just actually perfect. I don't know how that happened, but that's just life.
What's the point?
Yeah.
That's absolutely hilarious. All right, so that was our episode today. Doc, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Dr. Shenanigan. I stream there. I stream Starcraft from time to time, mostly Slay the Spire. But when I do stream Starcraft, it's usually silly stuff like, let's see if we can win going AFK. AFK. And all the meanwhile just proxies all it. So yeah, it works actually fairly well. So.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, maybe that'll be the series that we can see from you one day.
You steal the series idea from PiLi.
I stole it from Hearthstone. So.
What?
I stole it from Hearthstone.
Oh, okay. And then
you
can find me on Instagram/Drexama. That's pretty much that's the only social media I really use. But I'm always here on ESChamp on YouTube. So don't forget also we do ProBots here and we have all sorts of other content coming out. So until next time, we'll see you on Ranked.